Stocks on Wall Street closed with gains amid volatility. Key indices rise after Trump denies plans to fire Fed Chair Powell. Asian markets start on the back foot as Japan's exports fall for the second straight month with no US trade deal in sight. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a mild positive start to trade. Crude oil price rises in early trade amid signs of easing trade tensions with Brent trading near $69 a barrel. Gold prices pair gains after US President Donald Trump says it is highly unlikely he will fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
We have another one coming up, maybe with India. I don't know. We're in negotiation.
While Donald Trump signals negotiations for an interim trade deal between India and the United States are progressing and could be finalized soon. Speaking during a bilateral meeting in the White House, Trump hinted at a potential announcement saying, "We have another one coming up, maybe with India." CNBC TV 18 Newsbreak confirmed as SBI announces its first equity fundraise in 8 years to raise 25,000 crores via QIP issue at a floor price of 811 rupees per share, which is at a 2.3% discount to its closing price of 831 rupees yesterday. Tech Mahindra's first quarter constant currency revenue falls more than expected, while margin improves sequentially. In key earnings today, watch out for numbers from Wipro, Axis Bank and LTI Mindtree. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I am Vamakshi Doria. You're watching Power Breakfast. It's the day of the weekly expiry. Donald Trump is also hinting at a potential trade deal with India. So the bulls might look to build up some momentum, and a positive one at that. But first, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are doing. Well, it's looking like a mixed screen for now. On the downside, we do have the Kospi, which is the Korean index, down almost 0.5%. The Nikkei and Taiwan are down almost 0.3% each. But on the flip side, what's actually doing well is the Hang Seng, which is up almost 0.5%. It's a mixed screen as far as Asia is concerned. The GIFT Nifty will also come up for you on the screen, and it will give an indication as to how the Indian markets are expected to open up. It's a 34-point uptick for now. It's a mild green for the benchmark index. But let's take a look at what happened in the US market then. Wall Street ended higher with the Dow adding more than 230 points, while the S&P 500 gained 90 points. The tech-heavy index, the Nasdaq, also climbed 52 points. CNBC's Bertha Coombs gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the major indexes in Wednesday trade after President Trump denied a report that he was moving closer to firing Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. The Dow adding 231 points. The S&P 500 was up 20, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 53 points. Markets briefly whipsawed on Wednesday after reports emerged that President Trump was going to fire Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. According to a senior White House official, the president met with Republican lawmakers Tuesday, and after receiving support for the idea of firing the Fed chair, Trump reportedly said that he was going to follow through. That report sent markets lower. But subsequently, in the Oval Office, the president declared that he is not planning on firing Powell, that it's, quote, highly unlikely. Markets rebounded. A Fed official declined to comment. Meantime, a key measure of wholesale inflation showed there was no change in June, providing a conflicting signal of whether tariffs will boost prices in the coming months. The producer price index was flat, according to the Labor Department Wednesday, but it came after the consumer price index yesterday showed a 0.2% increase in June. The combined measures suggest tariffs are only taking a marginal bite out of the U.S. economy, at least so far. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back over to you in Mumbai.
Well, thank you so much, Bertha, for that comprehensive update. But that's all the global market action we have for now. But how will all of these overnight cues impact our own Indian markets? We have our research team joining in with how the trade setup looks like and the stocks that are likely to be in the news. First up, let me start off by talking about how the trade setup looks like. Well, after a weak start, Nifty recovered almost 90 points to close about the 25,200 mark. Keep in mind that for the Nifty mid-cap as well as the small-cap, however, it was a day of consolidation after seeing two straight days of gains. PSU banks, of course, stole the show in yesterday's trading session on reports related to the FDI cap hike. Take a look at PNB, Punjab Sind Bank as well as SBI. They saw stellar moves in yesterday's trading session. Now, as far as the US markets are concerned, like Bertha was highlighting, it was a good day for them because they ended in the green. The markets bounced back after Trump downplayed reports that initially suggested that he was planning on firing the Fed Chair Powell. The US 10-year yield as well as the dollar index has similar moves. The US 10-year yield ended at 4.46% after pulling back from a 5-week high of around 4.5%, and the dollar index, after rallying to a 3-week high, backed off and ended the day almost 0.2% lower. Now, coming to the trading session today, Donald Trump says that the deal with India is closed, and that will be a trigger that the Indian markets will be waiting and watching out for. More clarity is, of course, needed to come by on this one. TechM, LTTS and Angel One will be reporting to their respective numbers. Today, we will also be watching out for a few numbers from the IT pack from Wipro, LTI, Mindtree. Apart from that, keep an eye out on Axis Bank as well as Geo Financial Services as well. As far as board meetings are concerned, Hudco, Inox Wind, Tata Communications will be holding board meetings separately in order to consider fundraising plans. Patanjali Foods will be considering a bonus issue. The GIFT Nifty will also come up for you on the screen. Will give you an indication of how the Indian markets are expected to open. It was indicating a 33-point uptick last I checked. Moving on then, let's focus in on the stocks that we need to watch out for in today's trading session. Over to Ria then. Ria?
Well, yes, actually, let's take a look at the stocks that are going to be in focus today. Looking at the Q1 FY26 earnings first, for L&T Tech, the margins have remained largely stable at 13.3% in this quarter. The dollar revenue has gone down by around 2.9% sequentially and is up 13.6% on a year-on-year basis. For Tech Mahindra, the margins have come in at 11.1% versus 10.5% in the previous quarter. The constant currency revenue has gone down by around 1.4% sequentially versus our expectations of a 0.7% decline. For Ixigo, the revenue has seen an increase of around 74% over the previous year. Margins have slightly contracted, coming in at 8.1% versus 9.5% in the last year. For Angel One, the total client base is at around 32.5 million, up around 31.3% on a year-on-year basis. For the wealth management segment, the AUM has increased by over 33% sequentially as of to 50.7 billion rupees. For GMR Airports, they've come out with their business update for the month of June. The June passenger traffic has gone up by 0.9% over the previous year, and the aircraft movements are up around 2.5% compared to the previous year as well. Shifting away from earnings, SBI will also be in focus today. They've launched a QIP. They're looking to raise up to rupees 25,000 crores, and the indicative offer price is between rupees 806 to rupees 831.7 per share. Godrej Properties has acquired a 50-acre land parcel in Raipur with an estimated saleable area of 9.5 lakh square feet. Two pharma stocks to be in focus. The first one is Emcure Pharma. They've announced a partnership with Sanofi India to broaden the reach of Sanofi's oral anti-diabetic drugs. And Zydus Life has said that the US FDA has made no observations on the company's Gujarat facility, and the site was recommended for approval.
Well, thanks so much for that, Ria. And finally, we now have Mangalam joining in with cues from the F&O space. Mangalam, it's the day of the weekly expiry. What are the F&O cues indicating?
It is indeed the day of the weekly options expiry. And yesterday was a decent trading session. Why do I say that? Because, we opened lower. Thereafter, we tested lower levels. And then in the second half of trade, we had the IT index perk up once again. And that exactly what took the Nifty off the lows as well, and we ended closer to the flat line. So if you look at the Nifty, if you look at the IT index and the Nifty side by side, you would notice that, charts are fairly congruent and telling you that it's the IT index which has been supporting the index for the last couple of trading sessions. The Nifty Bank and the mid-cap index, all of them doing well. The Nifty Bank has been outperforming for a while. Just look at the weekly options expiry data today. In the cash market, the FIs have sold almost 1,800 crores. The DIs have gone ahead and bought 1,200 crores, but they keep selling in index futures. So we are yet to see the big short covering that is coming by in index futures because the Nifty has failed to cross important levels on the upside. However, the good part is that FIs are just 18% long and 82% short. If the market does conquer important levels on the way up, then all those shorts will provide further fuel for rally. The other thing is that over the last few trading sessions, the Nifty has broken its 4-day falling streak and has begun to recover from lows, and that's given put writers a fair amount of confidence to go ahead and write short puts. Ahead of expiry, there have been 2 puts written for every call, telling you that support has moved higher for the Nifty. 25,150 put and 25,200 put, both of them extremely active in trade yesterday, and also 25,250 call is equally active. So if the Nifty does cross past that 20-day moving average, maybe there is an up move in sight. That's what the punt buyers at 25,350 calls are doing. Yesterday's low on the Nifty, extremely crucial, 25,121. And on the way up, we are looking at the 20-day moving average as a mark to watch out for as a near-term range. Just watch out for a couple of stocks. RBL and Glenmark are both out of F&O ban. And yesterday, we had pointed out the possibility of Angel One entering F&O ban. That's exactly what's happened.
Well, thanks so much for that comprehensive Mangalam. But moving on, US President Donald Trump has been hinting at a trade deal with India and says it is likely to come soon. Listen in to his comments.
We had one yesterday, that was announced. We have another one coming up, maybe with India. I don't know. We're in negotiation. When I send out a letter, that's a deal. In other words, that's a deal. They don't want to ever say that. Oh, how many deals have you made? The best deal we can make is to send out a letter. We're very close to a deal with India where they open it up. Indonesia yesterday was, it wasn't an open country, now it is.
Well, on that note, let's slip into a very short break. Up next, we get you more updates from the White House in our special segment, Trump Watch. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, a statement that shook Wall Street last evening was when US President Donald Trump told a room full of Republican lawmakers that he would fire the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, but hours later he reversed his statement, saying they would pick somebody when it's time to change the chair in 8 months. Listen in.
No, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed, building a renovation, and they have a close to $900 million cost overrun, and it's a shame. But the biggest cost overrun is the cost overrun for interest rates, because we should be paying 3 points lower, and we would save $1 trillion a year in interest if that were the case. And all it is the stroke of a pen. And that goes for his board, too, because his board is not doing the job, because they should try and rein this guy in. So he's doing a lousy job, but no, I'm not talking about that. Fortunately, we get to make a change in the next, 8 months or so. And we'll pick somebody that's good, and we'll pick somebody. I just want a fair job.
And as Donald Trump reiterates that the Fed should cut interest rates, here's David Solomon, Chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs, saying he expects that the Fed would cut rates 1 or 2 times this year. Listen in.
I think there's a reasonable chance we get a cut or two, but not certain. And, I think the market is absorbing the trade policy. But on the call, I specifically said, and I think this is the best way to frame it, even if we have base tariffs, some special industry tariffs, we get a bunch of these trade deals. The trade deals are yet to materialize significantly. And we don't actually know the impact of 10% base tariffs and these specialized tariffs on economic growth. We have to watch closely. So it seems like inflation is on the right trajectory. I think we could get a cut or two, given where term rates are at the moment. But we'll have to see.
Well, let's also listen in to Brian Moynihan, who is the CEO of Bank of America, as he speaks about the Fed's independence.
Well, I think let's back up and talk about principles. As you think about across time, the Fed was set up to be independent and have a dual mandate: unemployment, price stability, i.e. inflation. And their job is to manage, add their management economy through short-term interest rate adjustments to accomplish that outcome. And I think a stable central bank is really very important, and very important in the United States, because of this size economy with $30 trillion plus of debt out there held all over the world, with a dependence upon trade flows, the stability of this country is actually necessary and important to the whole world. And I think a stable Fed and an independent Fed is key to that. And I think the cooler heads, and in a year we'll have a new Fed chair, because that's the right of the president. But I think if the market would really look at a change prematurely as being something very different. That being said, it's a political process and it'll play out. But I think the key is, remember that the core thing is that an independent Fed is critical to the operating of a great global economy like the United States.
Well, the U.S. president made more headlines overnight with trade-related developments. My colleague, Dia Ipan, is joining with more details. Dia?
A busy day on the world stage with key moves across trade policy and diplomacy. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would send letters to more than 150 countries, notifying them of tariff rates, and that the levies imposed could be 10% or 15% as he forges ahead with his trade agenda. Now, in response to U.S. tariffs, Canada has announced it will reduce the amount of foreign steel that can be imported tariff-free. The government will tighten tariff rate quota levels for steel products from countries without a free trade agreement. Now, those producers will now be able to export only half of last year's volumes, duty-free, with a 50% tariff imposed on any shipments beyond that threshold. President Donald Trump has also dialed down his confrontational tone with China in an effort to secure a summit with counterpart Xi Jinping and a trade deal with the world's second-largest economy, sources tell Bloomberg. Meanwhile, with regards to the tensions in West Asia, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington is hopeful for a quick de-escalation in Syria. The comment comes amid rising tensions and violence in the region, including Israeli airstrikes in the war-torn country. Rubio described the situation as a misunderstanding and expressed hopes that tensions could ease within hours. And lastly, the US and Bahrain have signed a civil nuclear cooperation accord. The agreement was finalized yesterday as President Trump met with the Gulf nation's crown prince. That's all for today. Now back to you, Vamakshi.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dia. But let's slip into a very short break. Up next, we get you cues from the commodities market, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, 89% of adult Indians own a financial account according to the World Bank's Financial Inclusion Index. But despite the growth, India still ranks among nations where a large number of adults do not own a bank account due to its population size. My colleague Ritu Singh is here with more details. Ritu?
The world has made unprecedented progress in financial inclusion, with nearly 8 out of every 10 adults globally having a financial account, but stark inequalities still persist. Let's start with India, where the World Bank's Global Findex 2025 report shows that as of 2024, 89% of Indian adults had a financial account, which is up from 77.5% in 2021 and a massive leap from just 35% in 2011. And it's not just urban or wealthy users. 89.2% of women and nearly 90% of rural adults have accounts today. But here is the problem. As many as 14% of adults, or 16% of all account holders, have inactive accounts. That's problematic because it's over double the global inactivity rate of 6%. Now, on the tech side, 66.5% of adults in India have their own mobile phones, while 42% have a smartphone, but just 38% use a password on their phone, which raises red flags about digital safety. commodity. There is a bright spot though. The gender gap in active account usage is closing. It dropped from 12 percentage points in 2021 to 7 in 2024, thanks to women receiving more government payments directly into their accounts. Now, if we zoom out globally, 79% of adults worldwide have a financial account now, which is up from 74% in 2021. More people are also saving formally, but despite this progress, there are still 1.3 billion adults in the world that remain unbanked, and more than 650 million of them live in just 8 countries, including India, China, Nigeria, Pakistan, and a few others. Now, the World Bank says mobile technology is the key to bridging this gap. And the good news is that 900 million unbanked adults already own a mobile phone, and over 500 even have smartphones, which means the infrastructure is already there. And platforms like India's UPI and Brazil's Pix can unlock financial access at scale.
Well, thank you so much for those details, Ritu. Interesting data out there. But moving on, we now have my colleague Manisha Gupta joining us with all the updates from the world of commodities. Good morning, Manisha. What are you watching out for?
Hi, Mama. Thank you for that. I'll start with the crude oil prices because we are looking at firm moves here. It's holding around that 69 to 70 mark for a third straight day today. And that is because we are now reacting to strong economic data from the major oil consumers. So whether you look at US or China, the data really seems to be improving. And then the markets also believe that the trade tensions between US and China also are easing. The street is also reacting to the U.S. crude inventories, which have declined by 3.9 million barrels in the previous week. That also has taken the prices slightly higher. The rebound also has been seen overnight in case of gold, in silver, the dollar index, and the treasury yields have retreated from its recent highs. That is supporting the precious metal space. And when it comes to the industrial metals, well, we have seen some profit taking continue here. The copper prices have slipped at major exchanges. The shipments to U.S. have eased ahead of the 1st of August tariffs there. Remember, U.S. does import 90% of its requirements from Chile, Canada, and Peru, and it has tariffs versus all of these countries there. Not just copper, lead is trading at a 4-week lows. Nickel price is trading very close to its 4-month lows. The only thing that I see trading in the green clearly is the iron ore price is trading at around $100 a ton. But apart from that, all other industrial metals in the negative.
Well, thanks so much for a comprehensive update on the commodity space, Manisha. But that's all we have on this edition of Power Breakfast. We're leaving you with the GIFT Nifty indicating a mild positive start for today's trading session, up almost 27 points now. Don't go anywhere. Bazaar Morning Call will come up next.